All right, so we're joined by Flowood Police Department police officer and graduate of Velma Jackson High School 2015, Devin Perry. We thank you so much for joining us. I got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central, Rosa Scott, Germantown High School, Ridgeland High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for taking some time for us today.
No problem, no problem.
All right. So before we get into your career as a police officer, you were a graduate of Velma Jackson 2015. Great student. Were involved in a lot of things. You played football, powerlifting, baseball. So just talk about your Velma Jackson experience and then transitioning from Velma Jackson to college.
So, I guess, like you said, starting out, I I had this idea, I want to go to school and play football. That's what I was told. Hey, you're a football player. That's what you're gonna do. Turns out, I did. I played a little bit, and it was like, reality set in. Hey, you need to find you something, find your career. So originally, I went to Holmes. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. I went to Mississippi Delta straight out of high school. Stayed there for the summer. Decided I wanted to come back and go to Holmes. Went to Holmes. I tried out. Went through spring ball and everything. Um, I didn't end up playing with them that fall. Ended up transferring to Alcorn after I graduated from there and getting a degree in education. So I went that career path, and I did that for like 3.5 years. And I went to League Central. I coached there, taught there 2 years, and then I transferred down to Northwest Rankin, and I went there and I was there for a year and a half, and just kind of had a change of heart as far as my career path. And law enforcement was one of those things where I was like, kind of fits my personality, fits who I am, and I decided, I'm gonna go for it. So I ended up getting a job up in South Haven, and they put me through the police academy. And eventually, I made my way back down here, and I'm in Flowood right now. But the academy wise, it's for anybody that might be, interested in like the military or stuff, anything close to that. It's kind of militaristic. Only good thing about it, you get to go home on the weekend. So I mean, it's set up for you to, still have your family, still get a break every now and then, but it's it's go time once you get there on Sunday. It's all focused.
That's awesome. Now, you talked about you made a career change because I remember when you were coaching at League Central and at Northwest Rankin. I changed careers once I started one as well. So, what was it that really made you decide that, hey, I need to do something else?
Well, I don't want to say I got bored with it, but being confined to like a space, I've never really liked that. I
Yeah.
got into the educational field because my heart was coaching. Like that was my heart, and I wanted to stay with football. But it was just something about that being confined to a room for every day, like the same thing over and over and over. It just kind of got old to me. Kind of got a little boring. But I told myself, if I do something, I'm gonna have a. It's not gonna be just something different. I wanted to have. I still wanted to keep my retirement as far as being
Yeah.
some with the state. So I got to thinking. I was like, man, what can I do? And I got friends that are police officers, so I kind of I talked to them, not knowing that they was gonna be like, hey, come on, join us. And I was talking to them, and they was like, I mean, you kind of you're a coach, you got that disciplinary in you already, and I mean, you deal with people all the time, all day. It's like I think you might make a pretty decent police officer. And I was like, man, I don't want to do that. Like, man, that ain't for me. But I looked into it a little bit more, and I was like, well, I'm gonna give it a shot. It kind of fits me. Like I said, my personality. I'm naturally like a protective person, so I'm helpful. I mean, I come back like even now. I still come back and help out at the high school every once in a while, whenever I
Yeah.
can. So it's like I'm a community based person, and that is exactly what Flowood is as far as their police department. Like we do, police work. We're policemen, but it's a community based department. Like we
Yeah.
change tires, we boost, we jump off cars, we unlock doors. I mean, we do the whole nine, and like anything that they call that you could possibly think that would be a problem for a person, they call us. We're gonna try and fix it.
Absolutely, and we will get to that because that's a great point. But and right now in the room, I have majority seniors with me, and we'll have a
Okay.
variety of grades that will see this later. And for people that are kind of on the fence about what they want to do, but they play sports, they're a team person, they like something different every day, they like giving back. This could be a great field to get into because we need more police officers.
Yeah, like it's when I say you can look at like Highway Patrol, for example. There was one of those places where, they had classes every so often. And now they're cranking them out back to back to back to back. And it's not easy at all. Like the Highway Patrol is one of the tougher places to go and work. So I mean, you're gonna earn it, and which you are going to any like police academy, like you're gonna earn it. So it's one of those careers where you have to have your mind, you have to have your head on straight, and you have to have a mindset as I'm gonna do this job and I'm gonna do it the right way. And right
Absolutely.
now, like you said, like I mean, everybody watches the news. We have a bad, stigma right now of what police are, and that's part of my thing that I do. I try to do daily. I try and change the way people look at police officers, and I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job at it because the area that I work in, like if the people keep up with the news, they know the the little loom that Rankin County has over it. So I deal with that daily. People don't know the difference. Like they honestly don't know the difference between Flowood and Rankin County. And there's nothing wrong with Rankin County. I work with them, hand in hand every day. It's just some people make mistakes, and that happens. That's in any career. You have people that make mistakes,
Yep.
but you can't tag everybody in that group. And my thing every day is if I can change the way one person looks at a law enforcement officer, I feel like I did my job. Like at
Absolutely.
least one person. So,
Yep.
that's how I go about it. And, as far as like knowing what you want to do as far as a career, like law enforcement is one of those things, like it's a team effort. Like it's when you go to the academy, that's what they're gonna instill in you is like teamwork, teamwork. The first thing I remember at the academy, they were like, the quicker y'all come together and become one, the easier it's gonna be. Like it's gonna suck. It's gonna be hard. You're gonna want to go home. You're gonna think about quitting. But the more you come together as one and you hold each other accountable. Like if somebody messes up, somebody does something wrong, like it's your job to say something to them like, "Hey, that's not right," because in this field, that's part of your job. If you see somebody doing something wrong or something that's about to go wrong, and not saying like another citizen, it's another law enforcement officer that's working alongside of you. It's your job to say, "Hey, that ain't right. Like we're not supposed to do that." And I feel like that comes along with, like I said, I played football and baseball. Like those are team sports. Whereas one person makes one mistake, it messes up the whole team. And that's how policing is. If one person makes a mistake, it messes it up for everybody. So, like I said, that's one of those things where, the team building side of it, like I love the team aspect, especially like the department I'm at now is kind of small. Like Flowood, you look at it like, oh, that's a big, busy city. But we're a small department. Like we're close. We're very close. Like we hang out outside of work. Like when we can, when we're at work, we try and sit down real quick, get a quick bite to eat together. Like we talk outside of work. It's a close brotherhood, and it's nothing like having that team building aspect, but being able to, kind of be, I guess, kind of control your own day. Like
Yep.
you can do as much work as you want, and you can do, as much you can as far as like the police side of it in Flowood, but also with Flowood being a like a close community, like you can, reach out and help people because
Yep.
it's like constant like flow of people all day. It's a constant flow of
Yep.
people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that too, because that's what I want to talk about next is that with police, it's not what you see in movies. It's not all the negative stuff you see on news. There's so many things that police are responsible for when it comes to funeral procession escorts, when it comes to just directing traffic at a school or at a church, or just, or making sure everybody's getting the line in the right place. When a new business opens, making sure there's smooth traffic flow. So it is not just to shoot them up, let's kick down doors and arrest bad guys.
Right. So like the job is not, per se what you see on TV, in which I've worked for two different departments, and when I say there are two totally different like atmospheres, there are two totally different atmospheres. So not sure how many people know, about South Haven, but South Haven is right below Memphis. And we all know, what Memphis, not the police force, but just what Memphis brings. So working up there, it wasn't like you say, it wasn't the Wild Wild West, shoot them up, kick the doors in. But, you know, it was a lot of it was a lot of crime, there's a lot of arresting to be done. And it was more so geared toward, the crime fighting side of a police force when I was up there. So when I came down here back home to Flowood, it was like a light switch. It was definitely like hitting a light switch. Now I'm not, you know, it's dangerous. Don't get me wrong. It's a dangerous job. Any job that you put on a badge, a gun, and a bulletproof vest is dangerous. But the the atmosphere in Flowood is a totally different place. And I was told in the interview that was like, I mean, I probably seen a lot more in South Haven than some people that work for Flowood for like 10 years. If they've only worked for Flowood for 10 years, I probably seen more in 6 months than they seen in 10 years. Just because it's a totally different atmosphere, which is a great thing because that shows you how safe and how controlled Flowood is with the police. And that's why people are not afraid to come down there. They're not afraid to, shop. They're not afraid to come and eat. Like it's safe. And like I said, man, we if you break down on the side of the road, we able to stop, question you like, hey, you good, or you need what do you need? If you need like air in your tire, you need gas. We can go. Okay, we got a gas can. We'll go to the station, get a gas can, put you some gas in to get you to the gas station. Battery died. You know, just about every officer here is jumper cables. I mean, as far as flat tires, if you got the tools or whatever, we'll sit there. We'll help you change it or we'll teach you how to change it. So the next time it happens, you're more ample to maybe handle it yourself. Um, and in certain aspects, if you don't have a jack, we got jacks in the department. We'll go get a jack, get a tire, and we'll come back. We'll jack your car up, get that tire off of there. And I mean, we do it all in Flowood. Like there is nothing. We're not gonna tell you no. We're gonna figure something out for you. And if we can't,
Yeah.
we can call you a tow truck.
Yeah, and then I think something that is lost in law enforcement that is so necessary. There's two skills that are extremely important, that are important in any field, but they're really important in law enforcement. That is communication skills and writing skills. Because
Right.
a good friend of mine who is in law enforcement said the way you have to look at law enforcement is you're dealing with someone when they're at their most scared and when they're at their lowest. So you have to be able to listen to them and understand them. And then when it's all said and done, you've got to be able to legibly and articulately put that in a report and then hopefully not, but sometimes get it on a witness stand and talk about that in a court of law. So you've got to be able to write and you've got to be able to talk.
Right. So that was one of the things I don't want to say I kind of struggled with, but I wasn't the most because even playing football, I was a quarterback at Velma. Like I was one of those people that when I started talking, like okay, people would listen because I barely said anything. Like I was more so of a I'm gonna get it done type person. So when I did say something, it was like okay, we might need to listen, see what he's talking about because he don't hardly say nothing. He's more of that laid back, laugh, joke. But hey, when it's business time, when it's go time, like I'm the one you want on your team. So I mean, I had to learn. I took some speaking like that when you go to college, your first year, I think it's public speaking. I think everybody needs to take that serious because public speaking is going to teach you how to write speeches and how to get up in front of people and talk. And with law enforcement and a lot of other careers, if you can't talk to people, if you can't, like you said, if you can't write something down and be able to read it, like you're gonna have a rough time. Especially with law enforcement, like talking to people, you have to be able to get up in front of. Sometimes it could be a camera, and you don't know how many people are watching that camera. Like it might be one person standing in front of you holding that camera, but millions of people are gonna see it, and the number of times it's gonna be replayed over and over and over. Like you got to be able to get up there, take a deep breath, talk, explain yourself, explain what's going on, and be prepared to watch it for the rest of your life, essentially.
Yep.
And when it comes to everyday interactions with people, I mean, you don't like. I came in contact with countless like races, like different genders, different like ethnicities, different like just people. Period. And you have to know how to be diverse and how to be like open minded, open hearted, and just hear these people out. Because like you said, you're gonna catch these people at their worst day. Because most of the time when the police are called, it's not a good day for somebody. And regardless, we have a job to do. We're gonna come. We're gonna do our job. But at the same time, we have to be able to communicate. You know, in a respectful way, no matter the situation. Like it could be a simple traffic stop. Like when you approach that car, you have to be able to keep a level head and diffuse the situation if there is one to be diffused. And pretty much you have to set the tone. If you want this traffic stop to go smooth, you want this interaction with this person to go smooth, you have to be calm, cool, and collected. And you can't run up there like basically using your authority to push over on people because like police already have a bad, reputation just because of others' mistakes. So you can't go up there all loud, like pointing fingers, like telling them like you can't do that. You have to know how to talk to people. And that was one of the things that we did at the academy was you learn, well, basically just by being there, there's going to be white, black, Mexican, like there's going to be all types of different people at that academy, and you're going to be locked down for a week together, and you have to learn to talk to each other and how to come together, and you know everybody doesn't have the same outlook on life. You have to be able to understand that and deal with it, and that's one of the things that is one of those underlying um, lessons that you learn at the academy that's not told that you're going to learn it.
Yep.
So once you get out, it's like, okay, man, I can talk to this person, I can talk to that person. I don't have to worry about, you know, how are they going to think of me, what are they going to say, like how do I talk to them because you've done it already. And the communication side of it, you just have to be on point because the way you communicate with somebody can throw a situation good or bad. It can sway it either way just based on how you come off to a person when you're talking to them. And as far
Absolutely.
as the writing part, I know at Velma they have the best English department because Miss Brown is gonna make sure you know how to write a paper. Like that's one thing I can say. She's gonna make sure you know how to write. So y'all need to take that serious. Make sure you're in there when she's hard on you. You gotta think of it like our sergeant tells us. We write a narrative, which is basically just a breakdown of the whole situation. You gotta be prepared for 200 to 300 different eyes to view that paper and all of them need to have the same outcome when they come out of it. They don't need to have different views of it. Everything you put needs to be like crystal clear that you meant exactly what you said. And the grammar wise, like everybody doesn't talk with proper grammar all the time. But when you're in that paper, in that narrative, you need to be able to make sure your grammar is correct. Everybody can understand it. Like punctuation is on point. Like it has to be like a 10-10 paper, 10 out of 10 paper. And it starts in high school when you're taking those English classes. Like you got to take that stuff serious. I know a lot of people are like, well, I'm not gonna need English once I graduate. Once I get in the real world, I'm not gonna need this. I'm not gonna need math. You're gonna need it. Like everything that you learn in high school, those basics, you're gonna need it. I was one of the people who said that, and instantly I learned you're gonna need this stuff. Like it's gonna show up when you least expect it.
Man, I've lost count of the amount of people that have said that same thing, but I'm glad to hear it from you. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before I get to the students' questions is this is a field that needs diversity. We need women, we need people of all races, and we need people that can speak multiple languages. Because part of that negative stereotype that comes from police, whether it be deserved or undeserved, is a lack of diversity in police departments. A police department needs, at least in my opinion, I'm not big on offering opinions, but in my opinion, a police department needs to reflect the diversity of the community it is serving, whether it be gender, language, race, whatever. So talk about, and I thought that was cool how you said at the academy, you had to work with all kind of people. So police have to deal with the public, so they got to work with all kind of people. So they need all kind of people wearing the badge. So talk about the need for diversity for the police departments all over the area.
So when I went to the academy, um, like I said, I went through with South Haven originally, and just we had 6 people to go. We had a girl that was Mexican, of course. We had some like black, two, three black, two black guys, a black girl, and two white guys that went. So just our department alone sent a diverse, like we sent three different groups to the academy. And I mean, when we got there, we had Latino people, we had like different, like it was just like a mixing pot, and we threw all that stuff into a pot and was like, y'all figure out how to come together. Like they didn't tell us, they was like, y'all figure this out. Like y'all are gonna argue, like we argued, we got into it, and then it was like, okay, we got to come together. So you had to figure it out because once you out here on the streets, like you can't be worried about, oh, I'm a black guy. I want to make sure this black guy shows up with me or this black girl. Like, you can't be worried about that. You got to be worried about trusting the person that's backing you up. You got to be worried about y'all getting this job done. You can't be worried about the racial groups. Like that's one thing that was instilled in us at the academy. Like this whole race thing, man. All this race stuff goes out the window. Like we're all the same. Like we're all blue. That was our thing. Everybody's blue. Like nobody's black, white, Mexican. Like you're none of that. We're blue. And like as far as in the police force, man, we need all of that because like I said, in South Haven, I had the Mexican girl that was in our group, and I used to call her. She worked on the opposite night shift. I used to call her some nights. I'm like, I know you up. Hey, I got this guy pulled over. He speaks no English whatsoever. Can you help me out? And she'll translate for me. And, we'll get what we need done. But I mean, if we didn't have that, like let's just be honest. Like the amount of people who speak Spanish in this state alone is growing bigger and bigger. I mean, in Canton alone, I mean, we deal with them in Flowood. Like there's Spanish speaking people. And that's another thing. Y'all taking these Spanish classes. I don't know who the Spanish teacher is right now, but y'all need to take that serious. Like if you don't know anything more than just your numbers, colors, like just simple like things, like I know objects, you need to know those things because those small, simple things that you can remember and retain, it'll help you along the way, especially in law enforcement because they know they know numbers, they know colors, they know objects. Like those are the things that you can stick with you, and you can kind of use those to piece together information to relate to them. And like
Absolutely.
as far as like the whole racial side of it, man, you need all races, and we just like I said, we call it what it is when we're at the police department. Like sometimes when you have a situation, like I might show up on a call and I'm like, okay, I'm uncomfortable with whatever's going on in the situation because it might not be something that, I'm used to dealing with. Whereas I got like one of my white friends that I'm like, hey, help me out with this. Or one of my Mexican friends, like, hey, I've never dealt with something like this. Like, help me out. And whereas they're do the same thing when it comes to like something with, African American person, like, hey, I've never dealt with this situation, like help me out. So if you have like an all black, all white department or something like that, like it's very hard to operate because you don't have that wide variety of, of views on stuff to where you can pull from here and there. So that's why it's very important that you get all races, all ethnicity groups involved because we need everybody. We need people, period. And situations as far as gender wise, man, we go on certain calls like we have we have calls like rapes, like when it's dealing with women. If I walk up, if it's a female has been raped, and I walk up to her and I'm trying to talk to her about it, she's less likely to open up to a male because the male was just involved in the rape. Whereas you have a female officer, she'll walk away. We say, "Hey, come here. I need you to talk to her. I need you to get this information." They can walk to another area of the house or outside, and they can talk because she feels more comfortable talking to that female. And I've seen that in action like multiple times. Also, like it could be a situation with a male that has something going on, whereas he's not gonna tell a female what's going on because he feels embarrassed. But come to me, he'll talk to me and like just man to man. Like anytime I hear that, like, hey, man to man, like I want to tell you something, just between me and you. Like I already know where it's going. Whereas if a female walks up, he's not gonna want to explain anything to her.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I'm glad you talked about that. And as a resident of Flowood, I see it, and I agree. You guys do a great job of that, and there needs to be more of that. But I do have some questions from the students, and I'll get to as many of these as I can. This first one is Ken Travian Young, signed to play football at Southwest Mississippi Community College.
Oh
And
yeah,
he asked, what was the hardest part about transitioning from a teacher coach to a police officer?
hardest part. Well, first off, congratulations on signing there. That's big time right there, especially coming from a former football player. That's big time. But transitioning, I mean, essentially, I tell people it really wasn't that hard because you go from kids and adults are no different in the aspect that I work with them in. Because I mean, you're dealing with kids. Kids are trying to be sneaky. They're gonna try to do that. They're gonna try to do this, and you have to have your mind like wired almost to think like a kid. Whereas, I mean, I'm dealing with sneaky adults, no different than kids. But you know, they're just the only difference is it's a bigger person, a more witty person, and a person that's gonna think a little bit more than a child. But basically, the hardest part from going from teaching to coaching, I'm sorry, from coaching and teaching to police was the schedule. I knew I was gonna have a Monday through Friday. I knew I was gonna get off at a certain time, and my day was gonna be over. I knew exactly what to expect because I could plan as a teacher. I mean, we did lesson plans. We planned our week out. You know exactly what was gonna happen when those kids hit that door. Whereas as a police officer, the only thing I know for sure is how to put my uniform on. That's the only thing that happens the same every day. I put my uniform on the same way every day. I never know what call is gonna come out, what's gonna happen when I get to that call. It might be the same call, but a different outcome.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
that's that's the biggest difference is just the work schedule and the never knowing what's gonna happen.
Yeah, but the thing about being the police is you got a lot more opportunity for overtime if you want to make a little extra money. So I know that a lot of
It's
departments do
definitely
offer
there.
overtime. This is DeKayla Williamson. She's a sophomore, one of our cheerleaders here, and she asked, "What's something you've experienced while being a police officer that when you saw it, you did not think you would have to go through it?"
So we had a situation where we learned at the academy, dealing with CPR. Like that was one of the things, and you'll see where I'm going with this. So learning CPR is one of those things that everybody needs to know. Like it's very important because you never know when you're gonna have to use it. And learning this, like we had to learn how to do it with infants. And they told us they was like, hey, one day you're gonna go on a call. Somebody's gonna have a child in their hand. It's not gonna be responsible. They're gonna throw that child to you. You're gonna have to catch that child, and they're gonna say, "Save my baby."
Wow.
I took that as like, they exaggerate. They're not. It actually happened to me. I was in South Haven, just riding around, just looking for whatever, and the call came out unresponsive, like one month old, or it was less than a year old, unresponsive. That's all we got. So we're licensed sirens, like pedal to the floor, like it's a child that's possibly dying. We're trying to get there as fast as we can. like medical, the fire department, and is already en route. Like when I say that's probably the fastest I've driven to get to a call because that's a child. Like it's if you have children, it hits you different. And when I got there, the exact same thing that they told us in the academy, it happened. That lady tossed her baby to me and said, "Please save my child." And it was one of those things where it was like a shock because it's like okay, they told me this would happen, but I didn't believe it. And when you catch that child, you do like your instinct kicks in, like you revert back to training, and it's like that's what police work is. Everything you revert back to your training when it happens. When you freak out, you revert back to what you learned in training. And just doing the simple things like the little sternum rubs, what we call, just to make sure like are they really unresponsive. And just that one little simple move, like the baby started waking up, coughing or whatever, whatnot, patting them on the back, making sure, they're actually unresponsive. And the baby woke up. It was just one of those things. I forgot
Wow.
exactly what they said was wrong with the baby, but it was one of those health conditions where he just kind of went out. And we
Wow.
just had to get him to be alert and was able to get him medical attention, and the baby lived. So
Wow.
it's just
That's
one of those
incredible.
things where you never expect it to actually happen when you're training for it, but we always train for the worst day.
That's
Like
awesome.
that's the thing. We train for the worst
All right, I got time for one more. This is Alexander Williams. He's a senior. And he asked, have you ever had to go on a high speed chase or had somebody shoot at you?
day. Nah, like I hadn't. That's one thing too. Like a lot of people, they look at police work. They're like, man, you're gonna be getting shot at. You're gonna be chasing. I mean, it happens at the departments I worked at. We've had chases. Um, not so much as you say high speed chases. I have never been involved in one. Like I've responded to plenty of shootings, but the shootout thing, those are one of the things I tell anybody. Like most of the time, if a shooting happens, by the time we show up, it's over with. Like
Yeah.
we can get there as fast as we can. People don't want to go to jail. I don't care how big, how bad you think you are. They don't want to go to jail. So they hear those sirens, they see those blue lights, and they're gonna scatter. They're not gonna just, stand there and say, "Okay, we're gonna shoot back." Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying it won't ever happen to me. I just haven't experienced it, right off. But it's one of those things. Like I said, we always train for the worst day, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things we train for. We train to respond to being shot at. So you'll get training for it, but some police officers they go through a whole career and never had to pull their gun out. Or I'll take that, but they never had to fire a round. You might have to
Yeah.
pull it out. You might have to use it. I've had to pull my gun a few times, but I've never had to put a round through that chamber. And it's one of those things where, hey, in a great career as a police officer, you never had to fire a round.
Yeah. That's incredible.
That's
Now
not.
we're almost out of time. We're almost out of time. And we thank you so much for joining us. And, I speak for so many people when I say how proud we are to call you an alum of our amazing school. But a couple things before we go. Now, one thing I like to talk about this every time I have somebody in law enforcement, and this is to remind all young people, whenever you are dealing with the police, no matter who you are, the side of the road is not the time to show out and act a fool.
Oh no,
So
not at all.
let your parents handle that. There are other people that will handle that for you. Like you said, in a any stop situation, the officer's already under enough stress. The last thing you need to do is try to act a fool on the side of the road.
Right. That's like I tell people. That's one of the quickest ways you can go to jail. Anytime, like I tell people, anytime those blue lights cut on, and you can say I didn't do anything. Why do you pull me over? You can say all that, but there was something. There are so many traffic laws that people don't know exist that you can get pulled over for. It could be you have your tag. Your tag has a cover over it, and we can't read your tag clearly. You get pulled over that, and you're like, "Well, I ain't speeding." That's the biggest thing people say. They think you only get pulled over for speed. There's a lot of other stuff. So once we start talking to you, we try to explain to you, like that's not the time to try and argue with us because at the time, I want everybody to hear me out. A traffic ticket that you get, whether it's speeding or running a stop sign, you can go to jail for it. So sitting on the side of the road arguing with a police officer is not the time to do that. because for one, we're already in a bad spot. That's where most police officers get killed. You think that people think it's from getting shot. No, it's traffic stops, getting hit by cars. We are not going to sit on the side of the road and we're not going to argue with you. That is not the time to have court. We're going to give you this traffic ticket and we're going to try and get you back on the road safely. And we're going to try to get back on the road safely. It's not the time to argue because we're not. I'm not.
Yep. Now, the last thing before we go is, like we said, this field needs people. So why should these kids, no matter who they are, really consider a career in law enforcement?
I mean, if you're looking for something like a team, like something where you work with other people, you're not confined to a space, like you won't, I won't say, I don't want to call it excitement, but you want to do something where you're not doing the same thing every day repeatedly. Like I like I said, teaching. That was one of the things where you know what's gonna happen every day. If you're one of those people who like helping people, like you like making sure people are safe, protecting people, like it's definitely for you. The biggest thing is you gotta have a good heart. Like you have to have a good heart. If your mind is not set on it, then don't do it. Like you have to have a great heart, have to have an open mind, and you have to be willing to, know that you're gonna see these people on their worst day, and you have to do your job. That's first. You're gonna have to do your job, but have a good mind and a good heart and help these people out because you're gonna experience them on their worst day.
Absolutely. Well, we thank you so much for taking some time for us today. Devin Perry, class of 2015, Velma Jackson High School, Flowood Police Department. I'm sure I'll see you out on the road sometime soon.
Yes, sir. All right,
All right,
y'all have
talk
a
to you
good
soon,
one,
buddy.
y'all.
See ya.
All right.